I suspect that every generation has a connection, an emotional connection to the soundtrack of their teenage years. And it is certainly true for me. And I have to give you a boomer alert warning here. I grew up in the 60s. And so we had the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the Kinks, Bob Dylan, the Lovin' Spoonful, Jerry and the Pacemakers. And then there was Motown, the Supremes, the Miracles, the Four Tops. And we had some great music in the 60s. The Beach Boys, Martha and the Vandellas, Gladys Knight and the Pips. And it was just great. And I learned to dance to Louie Louie by the Kingsmen. And for those of you who aren't as old as Jerry Mathers, I feel sorry for you. That's all I can say. But the Beatles dominated the musical landscape of my childhood. And I was in high school in 1963 when I Want to Hold Your Hand first hit the airways and record stores. And for those of you who aren't as old as Jerry Mathers, we used to have these record stores where you bought, never mind. So, they were singing I Want to Hold Your Hand. I'm a freshman in high school, and I am really starting to getting interested in holding a girl's hand. Any girl's hand. I was headed in that direction. And I graduated in 1967, and in 1967, they released Sgt. Pepper's. And so in those 4 years, the Beatles had changed, musically, financially, socially, culturally, and pharmacologically. They were a little bit different than they were when they started. And I had gone through a lot of changes too. But by far, my most favorite Beatles album had to be Rubber Soul, which was released in 1965. I was a sophomore, junior that year when it came out. And I loved it. I mean, I played that album over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, I just knew it backwards and forwards. I loved that album. And I hadn't played that album in years, decades. I don't play many albums at all anymore. We do playlists now. But the other day, about 2 weeks ago, I was on a road trip, and it was kind of a longish trip, and I decided to stream Rubber Soul in its entirety as an album. And boy, I tell you, it was great. It's such a great album. I mean, from the opening acoustic strains of the first song, and then In My Life, it just has these introspective, beautiful lyrics, and Girl, and it's just, that album has aged very well, and it's done it the best way possible, but not aging at all. It's just wonderful to listen to until the very last song, Run for Your Life. Now this song, from its opening line, is disturbingly violent and misogynistic. And if you don't believe me, opening line, well, I'd rather see you dead, little girl, than to be with another man. That's the opening line. And a few stanzas later, there's a, let this be a sermon. I mean everything I've said. Baby, I'm determined. I'd rather see you dead. You better run for your life if you can, little girl. Hide your head in the sand, little girl. Catch you with another man, little girl. That's the end, little girl. Now, John and Paul sing those lyrics with disturbing intensity. And George Harrison, my sweet Lord, George Harrison is harmonizing along with, and I'd rather see you dead, George Harrison. I was appalled by those lyrics, but even worse, I was disturbed by thinking of a 15-year-old me listening to this song over and over and over again, singing along with it when nobody was around, and never realizing how violent and misogynistic it was. Never even occurred to me. And this made me think that, I tend to judge other people. You guys are okay. But I tend to judge other people, especially people that I judge to have moral inconsistencies. And you know, forgive me, evangelical Christians tend to come to mind. You know, people who have Christ as a model and claim to want to follow him and do as he does, and yet so many of them enthusiastically support a president who is, you know, vain and greedy and angry and envious and gluttonous and adulterous and prevaricating and lazy and cruel and a bully. And those are more than 7 deadly contradictions. And this really bothered me because, you know, I tended to say, oh, those people, they have these moral contradictions and they're hypocritical and these obvious. And I didn't realize I had some of the same blind spots. I mean, I didn't see the contradiction between all you need is love and I'd rather see you dead, little girl. So it's true that rock and roll ain't woke. Never was, never will be. And neither was I. And I did do some growing up during the 60s and beyond. And I may not be all grown up yet, but perhaps I'm getting there.